Hi everyone. It is very warm where I am today, and I found myself dreaming of cooler temperatures and fall. So I thought, let's get into the studio and have a little impromptu session and show you how I make some pumpkins today. So I'm gonna make 3 different kinds of pumpkins, 3 different colors. I'm gonna go with this nice yellow here, a bit of blue and some gray, and I'm gonna show you how I make some easy pumpkins. So I'm gonna start with a yellow pumpkin here. So I'm dipped my brush. I'm using a Winsor Newton size 3 round brush, and I'm gonna go in and just make kind of a simple shape to start with, and that's gonna be kind of the center of my pumpkin. So that's sort of basically a bit of a leaf shape. And then I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna connect at the top here and make a second shape to make the curve of my pumpkin, leaving a bit of a space between that shape and the shape I drew at first. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And if you can see, the general shape of my pumpkin is slowly starting to form. And I'm going to connect it here at the bottom. There we go. And I think I'll go in and maybe make one more strand. I don't think strand is the right word. My terminology in the pumpkin realm is probably not adequate. So if you know what I should be saying here, please let me know in the comment. But I'm going to go ahead and call that a strand. I'm going to connect this at the bottom here. And there we go. Our first pumpkin is done. Now I'm going to go in and I'm going to try making a blue pumpkin. And I think I'll go maybe for a bit of a more kind of oblong shaped pumpkin. That I think is what we all like about pumpkins, is that they all have kind of different shapes and sizes. And I particularly like those kind of heirloom types of pumpkins that you can find at a lot of pumpkin patches these days. The ones that are kind of misshapen, ones that have, colors that are not maybe your typical orange pumpkin. I like the gray ones, I like the blue ones, I like the yellow ones. So that's it, that's what I'm making today. This turned out a little bit more round, but that's okay. Add last piece here. Maybe dab a little bit of blue at the bottom here, where the pumpkin would naturally be a little bit more in the shadow. And dip that color in here, connect it all at the top. And there we go. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead now and make a gray one. And I think what I'll do for this one is imagine that pumpkin kind of being seen really from the top. So you wouldn't see any of the sides. And the way I like to do that is to imagine imagine a pie that you've just sliced into pieces. That's kind of what the pumpkin looks like from the top. So make my pieces here, and I'm using kind of the same general method where I'm leaving a little bit of negative kind of white space in between all of my slices. And I'm slowly kind of going around, dipping into my color when I feel like I need a little bit more on my brush, and going around to create my general shape. So I have one last one here. Let's see. Like so. And then I'm going to dip into my brush, into my water, and I'm just going to connect. Now that my paint is, since my paint is still wet, I'm going to connect all of those kind of bottom pieces together to create the kind of circle shape of my pumpkin. And that's it. There we go. So let's see, I think I'll make another yellow one. I will try for this one to actually make more of kind of a longer pumpkin. So let's see. There we go. First piece done. Second piece here, maybe a little thinner. And I think I'll do one last piece on the side here. Connect it all. And there we go. Maybe add just a little bit more my yellow tone here. There we go. think I will make, let's see, I'm gonna make another, maybe a smaller gray one here at the top. Go around here. I'm actually already starting to think about what kind of pumpkins I'm gonna get for my house this year when Halloween comes along. And I think what I might be doing is getting 3 different sized pumpkins, kind of stacking them, making different faces on each one. I think that's what I'm feeling for this year, but we'll see. Might change my mind. Definitely not fully committing just yet. So let's see, I think I'm gonna make another one here. There we go. We do, I don't know if you have this problem where you live, but we have quite a lot of squirrels in our neighborhood, and they really like pumpkins, and why wouldn't they? Pumpkin is delicious. But the problem that we have with that is that we'll often leave our pumpkins out, and if we leave them out too close for too long, the pumpkins will definitely get devoured by these squirrels. So what we did find last year that worked the best in the end was dedicate one of those pumpkins to the squirrels. Just, you know, one that we would give to them. And because probably, you know, digging into the pumpkin is the hard part, we let that one be the one that would be devoured. And for some reason they didn't really get to the other pumpkins around them, probably out of laziness, I would say. So that's how we kind of resolved it, just to let them really get at one of them and help them out a little bit. And that was it. Okay, so I'm doing another smaller pumpkin here. I think I'll do one kind of strand here on the side. And obviously I haven't put stems, but I'm going to need to wait until all of my pumpkins dry before I put in the stems, because otherwise it makes it kind of difficult to do so. So let's see, I think I'm gonna do maybe one more pumpkin on the side here. And let's see, why don't I do it in this other direction? Let's do that and try. And it's being cut off a little bit here. Okay. So it's being cut off by my tape. So I've taped down my paper when I first started. And obviously that keeps my paper from moving, which is, you know, something that makes it easier to paint. But when I take off this tape here at the end, it's going to make a really nice border. But if you don't paint right up to that border, then, you know, you don't really see that you have that clean edge. And having that clean edge really does make a difference to the end result. I think it makes it look a lot more kind of put together and polished, but you really only get that effect if you kind of use the paint, the tape, and really paint to the very edge. So I'm going to do that maybe for another pumpkin here. I think what I might do when everything is dry and I've done all of my stems is try to do a little bit of a background on my pumpkin. And I think that might help make it fully look like all of these pumpkins belong together. So let's see, I think I'll do one more blue one here. Kind of a smaller one. Here we go. Kind of get into the rhythm. Once you kind of get the idea of the basic shape, I find that you can just kind of let yourself paint without thinking too much, which I enjoy as well. I think I might actually add a tad of gray paint, just a tiny bit of gray paint into this one, just to make it a little bit darker at the bottom. I think I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to leave you right here, let this dry, and then I'll be right back to show you how I make the stems. Okay, I am back. My pumpkins are dry, and I've just mixed a little bit of a dark green color, and I think I'm going to make the stems for all of these pumpkins with the same color. So I'm going to start with this one here. I'm going to imagine what the stem of that one might look like. Kind of paint it along. And there we go, that's the first one done. Let's see, this one here will probably look a little bit more like a little nubbin, like that. There we go. And then this one here, maybe the stem is more kind of towards that direction. There we go. This one can go right here. I think I would like to make the one on top here a little bit curved, so let's see. Add this here. Have this curve maybe this way, like that. Onto this one here. There we go. Maybe this one can curve in this direction. And let's see here. And this one here. Like this. This one can go right here. And there's not really anything to think about too much here. You just want to make 2 little strokes on the side where the stem kind of attaches, and then a little bit of a stem peeking out. You can obviously make it longer if you want, but I quite like the way this looks. And here, I'll do my last one here. Let's do this one like going this way. And then I'm gonna let all of this dry, and I think I'll add a bit of a coral color for our background. Okay, I am back, and I've moved to a larger brush, a round Winsor Newton size 10 brush that looks like this. And I've just started mixing a little bit of coral color to do my background. And I'm gonna go ahead and just start kind of painting behind those pumpkins. I'm going to spread the paint around. My tape is coming apart a little bit, so I'm just going to press this down right here. Hopefully none of it gets behind it. That is the idea. And then I'm just going to kind of go ahead and paint in the background. If some of your background paint gets onto the actual pumpkins, that's okay. It actually helps create kind of a shadow, and that kind of works out, so don't sweat it. Okay, so here, I'm gonna go behind here. And I think using this coral color kind of brings the whole painting together. Like it adds something. I'm happy with that choice. My paper is warping a little bit, and that's okay. It does happen while you're painting for your paper to do that, and that's okay. It does make it a little bit trickier to paint, that's for sure. But what I'll do once I'm done and my paper is dry is I'll weigh it down with a few sort of heavy books on top, and that should bring it right back to a straight card. So there we go. Just making sure I'm working a little bit quickly because you want to be able to help the paint travel, but it's a lot harder to do that once your paint has set, obviously. So I'm moving quite quickly just to make sure my paint doesn't pool, and I'm getting all of those white spaces around my pumpkins. And I think the last step is I'm going to take a little bit of a darker shade of coral. Here we go, just a little bit. See, it's not much darker, but a tad. And then I'm just gonna kind of travel the paint under my pumpkins with that color just to create like a very slight shadow. So I'm just adding a little bit of color. There we go. And then I'm gonna go back in and kind of help it mix with the rest. It's very slight, but I think it will help create a little bit of kind of shadow and light when all of this dries. There we go, maybe a little bit here, very slight. And there we go. So I'm gonna let this dry now, and I will be right back to show you what it looks like when it's all dry and hopefully not warped. Here we go, the painting has dried. I will take off the tape now and show you what it looks like. And that is our finished little fall card. Here we go. So you get that nice line all around. There we are.